FDA authorized COVID booster shots for people with weakened immune systems. It includes people who have received organ transplants or have similarly compromised immune systems. The CDC still needs to sign off on the move. Its advisory committee will meet today. If approved, the third shots could begin immediately. About 3% of Americans have weakened immune systems. The FDA acting administrator said other people who are fully vaccinated are adequately protected and do not need an additional dose of vaccine at this time. But maybe later. We'll talk about it right now. Joining us now is Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner, a CNBC contributor. He also serves on the boards of Pfizer and Illumina. How big is this decision? How quickly do you think it'll get approved? And how quickly do you think people will be getting those third booster shots, Scott?
Well, probably right away, depending on who we're talking about, how the CDC ultimately defines immunocompromised in this setting. FDA's decision last night that came at 11 o'clock last night is a little bit more narrow than it might have been. So they talked about people who are solid organ transplant patients and people who are similarly immunocompromised, so a comparable level of immune impairment to an organ transplant patient. So now it's up to the CDC to interpret that and define it. It's probably going to be the case that CDC is going to enumerate specific kinds of conditions that would qualify and then make some kind of general recommendation. And that's going to ultimately get put into practice. So this could get implemented right away. Doctors could start prescribing based on this emergency use authorization. A lot of patients who've undergone organ transplantation have already gotten third doses. Doctors have been doing that, oftentimes in protocols, but there probably are some patients who have not received a third dose who will now be more eligible for it.
Dr. Gottlieb, it's Scott. It's nice to see you this morning. I got a couple things for you. I saw an interview yesterday, late afternoon, with Dr. Fauci, who said something that I found, frankly, kind of surprising, and I'm wondering if you can opine on it. He said that the booster shots were not necessarily a result of as the word that he used was the durability of the vaccines themselves, but rather the already compromised immune systems of the people that we're talking about. In other words, those people never got the immune response that they otherwise would have gotten had their immune systems not already been compromised. I thought we were talking about the fact that the immunity wanes after a period of time. His suggestion would say otherwise. Can you shed any clarity on that?
Yeah, well, there's two separate issues. I mean, Dr. Fauci is right that this authorization that FDA issued last night really tries to address situations where patients probably never derive the full immune protection from the vaccine because of their immune impairment. There's a separate issue, a separate question around the declining immunity that we're observing in some of the clinical data, particularly out of Israel, also some of the U.S. data right now, from people who were vaccinated a long time ago, so people who were vaccinated in December or January, and people who are older, who don't have fully intact immune systems to begin with. And in that cohort, we are seeing an indication of declining immunity. Now, the judgment that public health officials are making here in the United States is that the declines aren't significant enough yet to warrant additional boosters. I think that the U.S. public health officials, and this is a policy call as much as a public health call, I think they want to continue getting first doses in Americans and probably pivot to booster shots probably sometime in September when they have data from the NIH on mix and match. So they'll have data on using Pfizer's vaccine and Moderna's vaccine interchangeably, and they'll probably have worked through a larger swath of the population that's still seeking first doses. One interesting point is that Israel overnight also authorized booster shots for those 50 and over and healthcare workers. So they're starting to walk down their booster shots. They've largely fully revaccinated their population 60 and over, and now they're starting to walk it down the age continuum. Mm-hmm. You know, we have to keep in mind, we also gave immunizations to the elderly population in nursing homes back in December, and also inoculated our healthcare workers back in December. So those would be the two cohorts that you would seek to give booster shots first to, people who are furthest out from being vaccinated and either who are at high risk of a bad COVID outcome, people in nursing homes, or those who come into contact with COVID constantly, like our healthcare workers.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.